You're listening to 105.3, The Gerblin, Dominaria's #1 music source for generic goblin noise.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at flipsidegaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. Just thought you might want to know, Flipside Gaming is doing another giveaway, this time for a box of Modern Horizons. From May 13th until June 16th, if you place an order of $10 or more, you'll be entered to win. It's one entry per person, so good luck and have fun. I'd also like to use this opportunity to congratulate Nate Mack from Illinois. He won the War of the Spark giveaway box, so look for an email from myself and Flipside. Today's game has us back with the Jersey Boys, and we've got Trevor playing his foily Phyrexian at Elesh Norn. He keeps a Ghost Quarter, a Monastery Mentor, 2 Plains, and Divine Visitation. Sean is headed to the farm with Firesong and Sunspeaker, and he keeps an Endless Atlas, Swiftfoot Boots, 2 Mountains, Electrostatic Field, a Plains, and a Plateau. Ever the opulent opponent, Mike is playing Olivia, keeping a Mountain, a Swamp, Temple of Malice, Grixis Panorama, Bogard and Hellkite, Wild Guess, and Sword of the Animist. And last but not least, Caesar is joining us with the Landscaping Lord Windgrace and keeps Torment of Hailfire, 3 Forests, Temple of the Discovery, Savage Twister, and Birds of Paradise. Caesar wins the die roll and starts us off. Caesar plays a forest for his turn and casts Exploration. This lets him drop his second forest for the turn, and he taps it quickly to cast a Birds of Paradise. Mike plays a tap Temple of Malice, bottoming the card and passing to Sean. Sean plays a Mountain and passes. Trevor plays a Plains and passes. Caesar plays his third forest for the game and taps out to cast a Temp with Discovery. No one takes him up on the temptation, so Caesar grabs an Urborg and puts it to the field. He then plays a Swamp for turn and passes to Mike. Mike plays a Mountain and casts Wild Guess, discarding Bogard and Hellkite as part of the cost for the spell. Sean plays a Mountain and casts an Endless Atlas. Trevor plays a Plains and passes. Caesar draws for turn and casts Lord Windgrace in his main phase. He discards a Mountain, drawing 2 from Windgrace's ability, and passes to Mike. Mike drops a Swamp for turn and casts a Soul Ring. He pays 4 to cast everyone's favorite Sad Robot, and goes to find a basic while passing to Sean. Sean plays a Plateau and casts Ghostly Prison. Ghost Quarter is Trevor's land for turn, and we see a Monastery Mentor hit the field before Trevor passes to Caesar. Caesar draws and casts a Woodland Bellower, going to his library to find a 3-drop non-legendary green creature. He finds and puts to field a Ramunap Excavator, which in turn lets him play a Mountain from his graveyard that he discarded earlier as his land for turn. Caesar then discards Savage Twister to draw 1 card with Windgrace, and passes to Mike. Mike plays a Grixis Panorama, and taps his Soul Ring for the Sword of the Anime. He equips it onto the Sad Robot, and heads to combat. He swings it at Lord Windgrace, and Caesar lets the Walker just take the hit. Mike then goes to grab a basic from his sword trigger while passing to Sean. Sean plays a Plains and casts Electrostatic Field, passing to Trevor. Trevor casts a Soul Ring in his main phase, gaining a Monk token from the Mentor trigger. He then plays a Divine Visitation, gaining a second Monk token, and resolves his Prowess triggers, but instead of attacking, decides to pass. Caesar draws for turn, and wants to draw some more. We see a Rishkar's Expertise hit the stack, and as it resolves, he draws 6 more cards. He also gets to cast a spell that costs 5 or less for free from his hand, and that spell is Acidic Slime. The slime enters, and blows up Trevor's Divine Visitation. Windgrace then gets upticked, with Strip Mine going to the bin, and Caesar moving to his end step, discarding out a 7. At the end of turn, Mike cracks his panorama to find a basic. Mike plays a Smoldering Marsh as his land for turn, and swings a Solemn Simulacrum at Windgrace again. This time Caesar blocks it with the Bellower, and as the Solemn dies, Mike gets to draw a card. Moving to his second main phase, Mike casts his commander, Olivia, mobilized for war, and gives her the slightly used and still warm sword from the Solemn Simulacrum before passing to Sean. Sean plays a Plains and casts Faithless Looting. This deals the first damage of the game, oddly enough, as his opponents lose 1 life from the Electrostatic Field's trigger. Sean then draws 2 and discards 2 and passes to Trevor. Trevor spends all of his mana to cast Elspeth, Sun's Champion, gaining another monk token from his Monastery Mentor and pumping the already existing monks with their prowess triggers. He then upticks Elspeth to make 3/1/1 soldier tokens and passes to Caesar. Caesar plays a Temple of the False God from his graveyard and the Cabal Coffers from his hand. He upticks Lord Windgrace, discarding a land and drawing 2. Moving to combat, he swings everything at Trevor. Choosing his blockers, Trevor puts 3/1/1s in front of the Ramunak Excavator, 2 in front of the Slime, and 1 in front of the Bellower. Moving to his second main phase, Caesar then casts Anger and passes to Mike. Mike plays a Sulphurous Springs and then pays 5 to cast a Thundermaw Hellkite. With the dragon entering, all flyers take 1 damage, and Caesar's Birds of Paradise is the first casualty of this turn. Mike then moves to combat and swings the dragon and Olivia at Caesar. Before moving from the Declare Attacker step, Caesar activates his coffers and puts 1 green into the mix to help pay for Windgrace's judgment. He decides on the Thundermaw, Electrostatic Field, and Elspeth. With the spell in the stack, Sean uses Boros Charm to make his permanents indestructible, and his opponents lose 1 from the field trigger. Elspeth and the Hellkite then get binned, and Windgrace loses some loyalty from Olivia giving him the smack. Sean plays a mountain, and he drops a Feldar Sovereign. This seems like a pretty bold play, but since Sean hasn't been dealt any damage, means the table has to deal with it before he untaps. With a smile on his face, Sean passes turn. Trevor casts a Luminarch's Ascension, gaining another monk token and some prowess triggers. He moves to combat, and he swings the Mentor and a monk at Lord Windgrace, with Caesar blocking the Mentor and having Windgrace lose 2 more loyalty. With nothing else, Trevor passes. Caesar plays a forest and activates his coffers. He uses some of the floating black to cast a Crucible of Worlds, and plays a Kessig Wolfrun from his graveyard. We then see a Torment of Hailfire where X is 12. Before you can say Deadlift, Trevor just takes all 12 triggers and drops to 2. Mike gets rid of some cards and sacrifices his Sword of the Anime, taking only 30, and Sean also takes the full hit as well, dropping to 4. Caesar then downticks Lord Windgrace, bringing back Strip Mine and Glacial Chasm, sacrificing a swamp to the chasm. He then passes to Mike. Mike draws and casts Scourge of the Thrones, using Olivia's trigger to discard a card and give it a +1/+1 counter and haste. Trevor and Mike make a deal, and Trevor uses Ghost Quarter to take out the chasm, and Mike heads to combat. He swings his 2 flyers at Caesar, and gains a Dethrone trigger. This puts a +1/+1 counter onto the Scourge, and will give Mike another combat step. Caesar then takes 10, and Mike moves to combat phase 2. He swings the flyers again at Caesar, giving the Scourge another counter, and dealing 11 this time. With his combat step over, Mike then casts Crux of Fate, choosing to destroy all non-dragon creatures. And Trevor responds to it by casting Rootborn Defenses, gaining a monk token, and populating the monk token before making all of his board indestructible and saving it. Sean plays a tapped Needle Spire for turn, and pays all of his mana to bring in Firesong and Sunspeaker. He then passes, and at the end of turn, Trevor adds another counter to his Ascension. Trevor draws and heads to combat. He swings enough tokens at Windgrace to finish him off, and deals 5 to Caesar before passing. Caesar plays a command tower and casts Omnath, Locust of Rage. He then plays a swamp from his graveyard and gains an elemental token from Omnath's landfall trigger. Mike draws for turn and heads to combat once more. The Scourge goes at Caesar, dealing 9, and then gives Mike another combat step. Mike swings the Scourge once more at Caesar, and as he's going out anyway, Caesar gives Mike one last goodbye with a Strip Mine to his Smoldering Marsh. Mike then moves to his second main phase, recasting Olivia mobilized for war, and then plays a tapped Bajuka Bog to exile Sean's graveyard. At the end of turn, Trevor plays catch up with his Ascension triggers and adds more counters to it. Sean plays a mountain and activates his Endless Atlas. We then see an austere command wipe away all the creatures that cost 3 or less and all artifacts. Firesong and Sunspeaker then go swinging at Trevor, but with an active Ascension out, they don't get too far. Trevor makes 2 angels and blocks with both of them, which I think is super fitting. We then move to the damage step, and sadly one of the angels dies in order to bring down the Boros clerics. Trevor plays a plains and swings an angel at Sean. This takes Sean out, and Trevor then passes to Mike. Mike draws and thinks about what he wants to do. In the meantime, Trevor catches his mistakes and pays the appropriate 2 needed to attack Sean and destroys his soul ring like he was meant to. Mike then casts Olivia and heads to combat, swinging the Scourge at Trevor, who makes an angel and blocks and jumps it. With nothing else, Mike passes. Trevor draws for turn, plays a plains, and is in no rush, so he passes. Mike draws and pays 6 in his main phase, casting a Micaeus the Unhallowed. He gives the zombie haste and a +1/+1 counter by discarding a mountain to Olivia's ability. Moving to combat, he swings the intimidating Innistrad Resident at Trevor. Unfortunately, Trevor's angels can't stop it, and Mike is able to close out the game. Game review time. So, I think this is probably the only time you're ever going to hear me say something bad about Torment of Hailfire. I love the spell, but frankly, if you're going to use it and it doesn't finish off the table, you're just setting yourself up to make 3 enemies. You always want to cast it when you have enough mana to kill everyone, and casting the Crucible of Worlds on Caesar's main phase was kind of a weird way to use 3 extra mana. I think Sean also had a better line of play when he cast the Austere Command, naming creatures that cost 3 or less, and enchantments as opposed to artifacts. This would have allowed him to take out Trevor, but he still would have died to Mike anyway. I'm quite surprised that Trevor's opener paid off as well as it did, considering he was at 5 cards and 2 lands in hand, and even with the setback of the Divine Visitation, he was able to establish a decent board state. I gotta give a thumbs up to Mike because this is the only time I've ever seen Micaeus the Unhallowed's Intimidate ever being relevant. Typically, I see him used for his other abilities, so it was refreshing to see him used as a beater. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.